Hello all, welcome to the web application pen testing course at Pentester Academy. Now in this video, we will look at csrf and XSS and see how this can be a very interesting combination. Okay, so in the last video, we've seen how tokens can be used to mitigate csrf attacks, right? And the logic there was that if a website requires a unique token, which can be, kind of changed per session or per request, then this is something the attacker cannot know a priori, and hence he will not be able to create a request which will contain the right token, and his csrf attack attempts would completely fail. Now, how does this change if there is an XSS on the website? So here is our setup. We have the victim user and we have a website which he uses. Now, what if the attacker finds a cross-site scripting attack on this website, right? It can be a reflected, a stored XSS, and in this specific example, let's assume it's a reflected XSS. Now, what if the attacker goes ahead and sends the victim a link with the appropriate XSS payload? Now, as soon as the victim opens this up, he visits the website, the XSS payload gets reflected back to him in the HTML served by the website. And after this, the victim's browser is going to happily run the XSS payload. And now the payload picks up the token from the HTML page and then makes a malicious request with the token included. Now, as you can imagine, for the website, it's almost impossible to figure out whether this token was something which was picked up by an XSS payload or something which was sent because of a genuine user interaction. Hence, the website happily accepts the token and the malicious request and completes it, right? So if there is an XSS vulnerability on the site, pretty much csrf tokens would be rendered completely useless. Let us take up an example. Now, here is my sample application, very simple application. And John has just logged into his account and there is a possibility to delete that account, right? The account deletion was successful. Now, if we actually look at the source code of the page and look at this form in here, now, even though the form seems to be very bare bone and simple, right, it does have a csrf token in there along with the UID field. Now, both of these need to be sent in order for this to work, and the attacker cannot know either of them a priori, right? And we can see this is a post request going to this script. Now, what we would discover is the parameter URL allows us to inject HTML and basically conduct an XSS attack, right? This is a given as well. There we go. So using this, now let us bypass the csrf protection. So to do this, I'm going to have to write an XSS payload. Let's open up Notepad. And let's write an XSS payload for this task. Okay. So basically, our XSS payload is going to make an XML HTTP request. So I'm going to say var request equals new XML HTTP request. The URL to open is request.open. We're going to submit the form, so this is going to be a post method. Here is the URL. Let's make this asynchronous. Let's do a request.send. Now let's actually pick up some of these parameters from in here. So let's go back to the challenge, and I'm going to go ahead and pick up the appropriate URL. So here is the URL. Let's pick that up. Let's go in here. Right. Now let's take in both the parameters. First is UID. So I'm going to do a request.send, and inside this I'm going to say UID equals, right, at this point of course we still probably do not know what the UID is. Keep that in mind. So I'm going to say plus UID plus, and then after that ampersand csrf underscore token is equal to, again I don't know what the token is, I'll have to figure it out dynamically, right? So let's do this. Let's go back in here. So this is basically going to be the fields from this specific form, right? So let's pick up the first form elements value, and actually make this a bit more smaller. So let's type in here that basically UID, just keep it as var UID equals document dot forms 0. There's only one form on this page. Dot elements 0 dot value, right? This would be whatever is the UID value, excuse me, which would be picked up. Similarly, var token is equal to document.forms 0 dot elements 1 dot value, right? So this way now we picked up both the UID as well as the token. We've mentioned those in here. Let me just verify this. And then after that, we need to ensure the content type is set, because this is going to be a post form. So request dot set request header. Now, if all of this is alien to you, you should look at the JavaScript for pen testers course. Content type. And then we have x www.form URL encoded. Get some spacing in between so that we can see everything a little bit more clearly, right? Okay, so I pick up the UID, I pick up the token, I create a new XML HTTP request, I make a post request, set request header to content type x www form URL encoded, and then send in the parameters which I picked up from above, UID and csrf underscore token. Looks about okay. So let's pick this up, copy it out, go to our encoder, encode it, copy it out. Let's also have our network monitoring enabled, so we can actually see the request go through. I'm going to paste this here in the URL parameter. right? And there you go. If you notice, the first was of course the get request for the page, and now our post has gone through, and of course this site currently has no cookies set up, so you won't find any. Here are the parameters. UID was picked up perfectly, the csrf token was picked up perfectly, and the response basically says invalid session. Okay, so we actually get an invalid session. So the problem seems to be that I forgot to do the prefix application x www form encoded, URL encoded. So that basically caused the receiving application probably not to use the post data at all. Right, let's go back in here. Let's just quickly encode this out, copy it out. Let's go back in here. Let's clear all the requests. Delete this. Let's paste this again. Okay, the post here went through. There you go. Account deletion for John successful. And if you notice, we basically sent in the right params, and the response is perfectly what we expect, right? We can go ahead and even alert the response, and we can do this, if you recall, by doing the request on ready state change, and this would basically be now this is only required if you'd like to do any further processing with the response, right? In this case, we can just do a very simple alert. So I'm going to do a request on ready state equals 4, and then request status equals 200, right? And if this is the case, let's just go ahead and do an alert, and I'm going to do a request dot response text. That's about it. Let's copy this out, go back in here, paste it, code it, copy it back again, paste the payload. Before I do that, let me clear the screen. There you go. Now the response has been alerted to us, right? Now, as you clearly saw, that this brilliant piece of script in here automatically picked up the UID, the token, constructed the request, and because an XSS were discovered on the site where the csrf tokens were being used, we were able to subvert the protection. Now keep in mind that in most cases you only need one page on the website which is vulnerable to XSS, and then you could pretty much access any page, fetch tokens, and even walk through a stateful application page by page, all using XML HTTP requests. Now if you're wondering how that can be done, please have a look at the JavaScript for Pen Testers course. I've gone in very great detail to show you how those things can be done. Okay, fantastic. So basically what we found is with XSS, csrf tokens are pretty much useless and defenseless against the attacker. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you have, please do recommend us to your friends and colleagues in the InfoSec community. Thank you.